Mixing with my career building tip, turning ideas into reality. When I was initially looking to put this up, I was going to talk about something that, with visualization, how you can visualize and materialize and all those sorts of things. And I love that sort of stuff. And the problem with it in using that terminology sometimes is that it can easily, turn this into like a thing where it's like, okay, Mike, put on your tinfoil hat and let's, we're getting messages from the stars kind of thing. And I think when there's a base reality to this, though, that's much more concrete and is not involving things that are necessarily outside of yourself per se, because you can debate those things and it's all your own perception to decide what you really want to believe in. But let's just talk about the concrete level of it. When I talk about turning ideas into reality, it's mostly about developing them and working on them. And usually this stems from a simple inspiration. So for me, when I create a course, a mixing course, an idea, I have an inspiration, I have an idea, and then I start to develop and work on that idea. So I think about it. So if I'm out walking the dogs, I'm out doing things, I'm always developing this idea, thinking about it. It's like, okay, how can I make that work? How can this work? What is missing from here? What do I feel? How do I need to develop this? And sometimes I need to sit down on a piece of paper and start to write things out and sketch things out. And as soon as I start to do that, what happens is I know it's the right thing when the ideas just keep coming. And then more and more I can visualize, I can see in my head exactly what I want it to be. I can design it. You can do this with anything. You could do this with songs. You could do this with a mix where, you listen to the material and you get this idea in your head about where you want the instruments to be in the mix. You create this vision, if you will, or you put your imagination to work, and you think about, God, okay, with this mix, how do I want it to sound? How big do I want it? How reverberant do I want it to sound? Where do I want, the instruments placed in the mix? How, aggressive do I want it to be? How, warm do I want it to be? What character do I want to give it? And the more you can imagine and bring that feeling as close to reality as you can about what you think it should be, the easier it is to apply, because now you've created a template to go after, and then you can start to use all of the tools that help you get there. So in the case of a mix, you would think about how you're going to compress it, what type of vintage processors that you're going to use. I want it to sound like it was through an old 70s Neve console. So you call up plugins from that era and you kind of work and start building from that sound. What reverbs do I want to use? How do I want to create this character? And you start to apply your technical skills with a very specific role and a specific purpose, and then you achieve what it is that you're looking for. But if you don't have that idea in your head, you don't put that idea in your head and you just kind of start doing something from scratch and just sort of guessing, most of the time you end up nowhere. You have to sort of plot it out. And so this is the whole thing about turning ideas into reality. It's really about envisioning as much as you can, as clearly as you can, what it is that you want. And then what happens is all the necessary steps you need to take to get there become that much more obvious. So it's one thing to say that I want to go to the East Coast. Well, if I'm on the West Coast, I go to the East Coast. That's easy. Where? It's like huge. The West Coast. If I say I want to go to, somewhere in the Northeast, it's like, okay, we go to New York. You can go to Boston. Where are you going to go? And then like the more specific you get, the easier it is for you to design your path there so that you get to where you want to go specifically faster. But if you just sort of say, oh, I'm just going to head east, you could end up anywhere and end up with nothing that you want to do or nothing that you want to, what you want to be. This works with your career. It works with your mixing. It works with everything that you do. So put your mind to it. Really design things in your head. Dream a little bit. Allow yourself to think. Develop ideas. Think of creative ways in which you can make the things you want to do happen. Visualize these things. So there's a concrete thing here that is more than just about expecting it to drop out of the sky and land on your head. It has nothing to do with that. But what it has to do with is focusing your mind so that when you make your efforts, when you go to the phone and you make phone calls, you're knowing who to call, what to say, exactly what it is that you're trying to sell or what it is that you're trying to work on. So you can be very specific about who you call, what you call, and the decisions you make, and then things start to come together faster. Otherwise, you're just sort of arbitrarily, playing pin the tail on the donkey or throwing darts in the dark, hoping that you get a bullseye. But if you shine the light on it, then at least you're throwing the dart in the right direction. And then you have a much better chance of hitting your target. So that's what I'm mixing with my career building tip, turning ideas into reality.